Welcome to the Teachers on Fire podcast, where 21st century educators come to share, learn, and be inspired. We believe in the growth mindset, creativity, communication, critical thinking, collaboration, and strategic uses of education technology. Our mission is to share news and views from teachers who are crushing it in the classroom and making a difference for learners everywhere. I'm your host, Tim Cavey. Let's jump into today's episode. Today, I'm speaking with Michael Drezek. Michael is a technology integration specialist for the Lakeshore Central School District in upstate New York. Michael is in his 15th year as an educator and is the host of the Quest for Enlightenment podcast. He is also a Level 1 and 2 Google Certified Educator, Microsoft Innovative Certified Educator and Trainer, 2016 Apple Teacher, 2018 Minecraft Education Global Mentor, a former Teacher of the Year, and he's earned numerous other accolades, too many to list here. Find out more about Michael's innovative work with technology and education at michaeldrezek.com. Michael, thanks so much for coming on the show today. Are you ready to talk education?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure. Let's find out a little bit more about what you're involved with today. So tell us a little bit about your current context in education.
Sure. I am the current District Technology Integrator is the title for the Lakeshore Central School District in Angola, New York, which is about 25 to 30 minutes outside of Buffalo. And I also have the designation as a TOSA, or Teacher on Special Assignment. This is my 5th year in this current position. So I was formerly a mathematics teacher at the middle school level for 10 years. And I did my master's in educational technology, and that's kind of how I landed on this role as a tech integrator.
Now, Michael, we're going to start with a low moment. Tell us about an experience of adversity that you faced in your teaching or education career, and then how you overcame it.
Yeah, for me, I think that a low moment was, putting my content over really truly getting to know my students. As I step out of the classroom now and work with teachers and really get to see things from a different lens, I realized how much I just focused on the math. And maybe that was a little bit due to the schedule of only having either a 38-minute class or a 40-minute class and feeling like I had so much content to cover. Mm-hmm. And granted, I had a good relationship with my students in that they liked me when they would see me out in the town or the community. They were excited to see me and say hello. But I just feel like I could have done a better job with that. So looking back now, or if I were to go back into the classroom, I think I would focus my efforts there a little bit better as to, not making it all about the math and the content. And, I know in New York State, they, for a while there, they evaluated their teachers on the test score. So for me, it became all about that test score, and I lost sight of really what matters most and really why we got into this education thing in the first place.
I think that's a really good insight, Mike. And tell me, if there was one thing that you could go back and do differently in your classroom, I'm talking a practical example here, how would you invest a little bit more in those student relationships?
I think it's just to make time for student voice. I think, I was the one that was doing a lot of the talking and a lot of the teaching. There became a time when I discovered the flipped learning model, and then I brought that into my classroom, and that certainly helped. But I think, I use that term student voice all the time, and I do it in a lot of the classes where we give the students the opportunity to share, whether we have them create a podcast or we have them do some video reflection. I think if I would have given time for students to create more, that it maybe would have brought out some of their passions and their personalities a little bit more.
That is awesome. Now, I have to ask, before we move on, was Flipgrid a thing when you were still in the classroom?
It was a thing in that we just did the Skype-a-thon with their team today, and I learned that it actually started in 2012 is when that evolved. So I started this role in 2014-15. I discovered Flipgrid in, I'd say, 2016, and so I did not have it at that time, but that would have been a tool that would have definitely helped.
Mm-hmm. With student voice, absolutely. That's a great takeaway, and that's one that I think every educator at every level can apply. What excites you about education today, Michael? Now, you work in classrooms, I assume at some point, not as a teacher, but as an instructor. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. I go into classrooms. I may do lessons with students, but mainly I plan with teachers to help them integrate technology more effectively, or help them even discover new technology and really level up some of their lessons. And so I'm working with students at times, and other times it's just working with teachers one on one or in small groups. But I say really what excites me about that is getting to be able to have that reach, to be able to reach all 250 teachers in our district and all of those students, aside from just the 100 that I maybe had when I was just a classroom teacher. And I don't mean to say just a classroom teacher, but just to be able to expand that reach. I see how much they put in every day, and I'm just so grateful that they're willing to open up their door and let me come into their classroom and collaborate with them and bring new ideas to their students. But, I think technology just in general, as a tech integrator, I think that that's what really gets me excited, is, not to necessarily have the students have their face in a screen all day, but how could we use technology to empower our students and to get them creating and sharing, not just with their own peers, but with classrooms around the world. And that's really been one of my biggest passions, is the global collaboration piece.
That's awesome. Now, Michael, you're really one of the experts in the field. Where do you see technology going forward in the classroom? I mean, 10 years from now, do you see some AR, VR kind of applications becoming normal in the classroom?
I do. I mean, I think the fact that, as mobile devices become more affordable, most of our students have a smartphone. I know that's not the case everywhere in the world. But, here in North America, I see that as really becoming probably the norm. I mean, if as their infrastructure strengthens and as the cost comes down, you've seen the evolution of technology and some of the amazing things that are happening with 3D printing and with AR and VR. So, I mean, I imagine would come to a time when, something as simple as, I just did a Google Expeditions today with a teacher with the augmented reality component where we were using the iPads and kind of interacting with those 3D models. And, I kind of wonder to myself, what will this look like you said, 5 years from now? Where will this go? So, it certainly keeps me thinking, but you have to think that it will become the norm. And I think that the key is that it can't feel like another, project for teachers. It has to be something simple. And I think it's definitely heading in that direction. And I look at things like the Google Glass, and maybe that was ahead of its time, but it was awkward. It just didn't seem like it was simple to use. You're wearing these funky glasses on your face to watch a little video in your eye, and
Yeah.
I think the simplicity will be the key.
It's so fascinating. I mean, inside and outside of education, I listen sometimes to a guy named Gary Vee, and he talks about, in 10 years, we're all going to have contacts that play video in our eyes. I mean, to me, that's hard to believe, but it's definitely an exciting place. And it's neat to see, what kinds of possibilities this might hold for education for sure.
I mean, and I just look at like Google Translate, for example. I didn't realize until just recently that you could take the Google Translate app and hold it up to a poster. And with the optical character recognition, it could actually then translate that poster right on the spot into another language and overlay that text right on a poster with that augmented reality component, which that just blew my mind. And I didn't realize that Google Translate had that ability. So to think, if you have an English language learner in your school, or how it's really helping level the playing field in terms of accessibility too.
It's amazing. Now, Michael, thinking of growth mindset, how are you looking to grow professionally and improve your practice this year? Can you share with us about maybe one specific professional goal that you're working on?
Well, my professional goal this year is to find a way to meet with every single teacher in my school district, to not let anybody slip through the cracks. And I feel like if I can reach that goal, that I'll grow and that I'll learn so much from the other educators that are out there. I'll probably stumble on a need that I didn't realize existed. And then that will push me to either get more creative with technology integration or reach out to my network of other educators through my PLN which and collaborate that way, which has been immensely valuable for me as an educator. So I think to continue to, connect, grow through whether it's blogging, to resurrect my podcast that I've had going. I think that, those types of things will send me in the right direction.
Now, Michael, before I move on, I'm going to just pause on the growth mindset. What do you say to those, let's say, well-experienced educators who tell you, they look you in the eye and they say, I'm just not a tech person? How do you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, I do get that. They just say, or it never works for me, or I just say to them back, well, let's give it a try.
Right.
We've got to try this. And it doesn't always go perfect, but I think the reaction that we get from the students is really what speaks for itself. I think that's where we really see it, the transformation, is if the student has that experience with it where they're more engaged, more empowered. I think that may be what can sell that veteran teacher or that teacher that just says it's not for them. I think you got to find a tool that's simple enough for them and something in some way that can make their life a little bit easier.
Michael, outside of education, what's another area of learning for you? What is it that ignites your passions outside of the school environment?
Yeah, that's a great question. Last year, a big push for us was on global collaboration, and I think we really knocked that out of the park. This year, a big push in our school district is around digital citizenship and getting students to become better digital citizens. So when I think of outside of education, and how is that another area of learning for me, I think about my own kids. I have a 2 and a 5-year-old here at home, and they're really not on devices a lot. I mean, we have an iPad, and my son, who just started as a student in kindergarten, is starting to discover some learning apps and things like that. But I guess the digital wellness aspect of it, I realize like how, I guess, hyper connected we all are as a society, and I think about that as a parent and as a father. How can I really get my own children to use technology for good, to the point where they are good digital citizens, and finding a way to use technology to leverage it to connect with, maybe it's experts in the field, maybe it's, I see kids that just want to game all the time. Well, how can we turn that into something more productive? Maybe they could learn how to build a game or code a game, or I guess it's just being strict digital consumers. I just, it's all new to me too. So I'm reading about it. I'm trying to learn. I hear the term digital native, and how do I navigate this with them and support them on that journey? I feel like we sometimes these kids are just thrown a device. We wouldn't put a kid in a car without driver's education.
Right.
So how do we we get the student a device, or our children a device, without being a guide on that journey along with them?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The part that you mentioned about creating over consuming really resonates with me, and that's where I'm at. I've got a couple of middle schoolers here at home, and some days it's like, hey, before you start consuming, what have you created today? Michael, share about a personal habit that contributes to your success. Now, you're one of these guys in so many different, let's say, worlds or domains of service. So how do you manage it all? What is it that allows you to do all these things well?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just tie it back to work ethic. I mean, I've been an athlete my whole life, and in the locker room and having all the coaches throughout my life that said, would always push that mentality of no one's going to outwork you. You can't control how smart you are. You can't control a lot of things, but you can control how hard you work. So I think for me, it's really just to making sure that I put the effort in, to make sure that at the end of the day, I can say, you know what, at least I worked as hard as I possibly could on this. So I think that, in education, you see teachers out there just giving it all they have for their students. I think for me, that's the habit that I really look at the most, is just to keep on grinding and keep on working as hard as you can. And you got to mix the fun in there as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now we're moving into some quick picks here, Michael, and this area fascinates me. I love to sort of get a sense of the voices that are speaking into your work and the influences you're paying attention to today. So let's start at Twitter. Tell us about an education leader that we should be following there and explain why.
Yeah, I'm going to just give a shout out here to Dwight Carter, principal from Ohio. I just love the messages that he shares. He came to speak at our school one time, and I remember walking away being so inspired. I mean, here's a guy that not only shares on Twitter just inspirational messages, but he's walking the walk every single day. So that's one for me. And I mean, there's so many out there. You know, I could go on and on that one, but there's one that just jumps out at me.
Cool. And then point us to an ed tech tool that you currently enjoy using in your day-to-day work, or maybe one that you admire, or maybe that's not the right word, but one that you see teachers using very effectively in their practice.
Yeah, one of my favorites is Buncee, and you know they had the hashtag last year that took off was "And I Create," and you know we talked about the consuming over creating, and I love the fact that in Buncee you're given a blank canvas and you can create anything you want. There's animations, there's stickers, there's you can embed video, you can embed image right through the webcam, you can attach audio to any single image on any single item on the slide. You can embed 360 images. You can link any of the Buncees to a board full of them. I just think it's a really great creation tool. I use it for promotional things that I do throughout the school district. If I want to, you know, advertise something to our teachers, I'll throw it on a Buncee. If the students want to, you know, demonstrate their learning, you know, they're doing phases of the moon. It can be done in Buncee. Math class at the high school with the inking tool. You know, on a Chromebook, they could work through their thinking process on there, and then add a video that would then explain their thinking. So I think it's just kind of like a one-stop creation tool.
And is that a freemium model?
Absolutely, yeah, yep. So I know
Okay.
anyone on the free can make 5 Buncees, and then you could download it out of there or delete one out. But they also have we use Buncee for schools and districts, which allows us to have it sync with Google Classroom, and then to get all of the features. You can do a lot on the free, but I like the ability on the schools and districts to have our own domain and to be able to upload our own assets in there that students can use as well.
I am totally new to that one, so I look forward to checking it out. Next, Michael, recommend a book, one that you've been reading lately, or perhaps one of your all-time faves that educators need to take a look at.
Yeah, I gotta just give a shout out to Social Media by Jennifer Casatad. I was just up at the DigCit Summit in Toronto, and I had a chance to present there. And she and her team organized that. And now she's the author of Social Media, but it's really, how do we take students from digital citizens to digital leaders? And it's kind of a spin on social media with Social Media, and she just highlights some students around the world doing some amazing things, and I just love it because there's kids out there just living by example. So I try to use them to spark ideas with our own students, from class student-led social media accounts to student activists that taking up a cause that is interesting to them. Just really seeing how students are changing the world. That book has inspired me to do more as an educator and to help our students try to kind of uncover their passions and share their voice with the world.
Yeah, authentically, right? That is so exciting. Now, Michael, you are a podcast host, so I assume you must be a listener. Tell us about one podcast that you enjoy listening to on your commute.
Yeah, so for me, I've got about a 15-minute commute to school and back.
That's not bad.
I usually will listen to sports radio on the way in.
Sure.
To sidetrack your question, and from Buffalo, so we have the Bills and Sabres here. So usually it's not all positive, but on the commute back, I'll pop on something quick. I really like Matt Miller's Ditch That Textbook podcast. Yeah, I like that they're short. I like that they're quick. I like it's like 1 or 2 simple ideas I can take away and put to use right away. Or he'll pose a question that just gets me thinking about something differently. So I think that's kind of what I like the most about that one.
Did you see Matt Miller's book announcement? He's got Tech Like a Pirate coming out soon.
I did see that. Yeah, I'm super excited to see that, to read that. I'm curious to see what will be in there. I've read Ditch That Textbook. ditch that homework. So I like the Tech Like a Pirate. That was a good one.
I think technology books are always brave, right? Because they get dated so fast, but you just know that he's going to fill it with sort of innovative principles that are timeless. So Tech Like a Pirate, that'll be a good one. Yeah. And then 2 more related to video. Michael, tell us about a YouTube channel that you enjoy, and this might be sort of in the education realm or one that you just find personally enjoyable.
I got to go with the classic TED Talks. I can listen to those all day long, regardless of what the topic is. I had to recently give a TED style talk last year. It was really challenging for me to put that together, just trying to make sure that, I got my ideas across concisely and in that time frame. So I would watch a lot of those just to see what others were sharing. But I'm a huge music fan. So some of my favorite music artists, are you in Canada, right?
Right.
The Tragically Hip, City and Color, the Arkells, a lot of those Canadian bands. Being in Buffalo, I just can put on one of their channels and just kind of put that music on in the background while I get some work done.
Nice. And then last question, Michael, when you're at the end of your day and you've got no energy left for anything productive, what are you watching on TV these days?
Yeah, I have been into The Walking Dead. I know some people may have given up on it, but I've hung in there. I don't read the comics, but now that it's in the final season, I'm just so curious to see how this thing is going to wrap up. So I've been hooked on that. It's kind of like a Sunday night tradition. I'm not really a Halloween kind of guy. It's not my favorite holiday or anything like that, but there's something about the zombie apocalypse, I guess, that just gets me thinking.
Well, I got through about 6 seasons, I think, and then Glenn died, and I was so burned. I was like, man, I got to leave this for a while, but you're encouraging me to get back to it, so thanks for that.
Yeah, it's good.
Michael, this has been so much fun. What are the best ways for listeners to follow you and get more of that education, technology, content, and advice that you share so freely?
Sure, yeah, I'm on Twitter at m_Drez, that's DREZ. Twitter's my go-to tool, so I'd love to connect with new people there and learn from and with them. My podcast is Quest for Enlightenment, and we're at Quest for Ed Podcast. We podcasted a bunch last year when we launched it and hope to get that back up and running again this year. I blog at michaeldrezick.com, and I'm Instagram at mdrez07, and I'm on Voxer at mdrezick. So those are some of the places where I'm hanging to learn with and from people.
Sounds good, Michael. Again, thank you so much for sharing your time with us tonight. This has been fun and enlightening. Take care, and let's talk again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Teachers on Fire, where teachers come to share, learn, and be inspired. Please subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review on iTunes, and follow us on Twitter at Teachers on Fire. I'm your host, Tim Cavey, saying goodbye for now, and we'll catch you next time, right here on the Teachers on Fire podcast.